Like I said, my name's Kira. I did my undergraduate degree in Korean, and I've been working as a Korean English translator for about 3 years. I'm also an incoming master's student at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland, where I'll be studying East Asian studies. So obviously I do use Chinese for my research and things like that. I've been studying Chinese very on and off since about 2021 or so, but I started really seriously studying it last summer, and I managed to just about scrape a level 5 in the TOCFL exam in May this year. So like I said, I'll talk about my Chinese learning in more detail later, but for now we're going to have a look at what exactly the TOCFL exam entails. So in terms of what the TOCFL exam is, I'm sure you probably all know, but it's a Chinese language proficiency exam for non-native speakers primarily, and it's been administered since 2003. Of course, the test has undergone changes, but it's fairly well established and well known. The TOCFL exam can be taken in either simplified or traditional characters if you're abroad, but if you're in Taiwan, you have to take it in traditional characters. They offer 6 main levels, which are roughly equivalent to the CEFR system, which we mostly use in Europe for language testing. If you're not familiar, A1 is sort of your absolute beginner basics, and then C2 is the highest level. It's about the level of a university-educated native speaker, so it's extremely, extremely high. And some versions of the TOCFL also offer slightly lower levels that are below the A1 level. If you do want more detailed information about how the TOCFL test compares to either CEFR or the American ACTFL, then the test explanation pages on the TOCFL website do have that information available for every test type. This is the table for the CAT test, which is the most common one in Taiwan. If you don't know what CFR or ACTFL is, but you do know what HSK level you are, you might also be interested in this table. This is also from the TOCFL website, and it's a comparison between the TOCFL levels and the current HSK levels. It says new HSK. This refers to HSK 2.0. They don't mean the HSK 3.0, which the exams for haven't started yet. In terms of what you actually need to learn for the TOCFL test, it's a quite broad test. There isn't any specific curriculum or textbook you need to follow, but if you want a good grade or a good level, you do need to cover a very diverse range of topics. Things like daily conversations, literature, science, the arts, pretty much anything and everything. But don't worry if you feel a little bit lost, because there are still lots of sort of guidance and resources available for you. Of course, if you want to prepare, you should probably know what you're preparing for. The TOCFL does offer a couple of different test types, including separate tests for the listening and reading, and then for the speaking and the writing. So that's 3 different tests. If you do want to take speaking or writing, you will be taking a computer-based test. For listening and reading, there are both computer and paper-based tests. But you do need to check the situation in your country or in your local area, because not all tests are offered everywhere. Some countries only have listening and reading, and some will only offer them as either computer or paper-based tests. So you do need to check that when you are preparing to take the exam and when you're registering for it. If you're in Taiwan and you want to do the listening reading test, you'll probably want to take the CAT, or computerized adaptive test. It's offered much more regularly, which is obviously a big bonus, but it also has some other advantages. The way the test works is that you don't have to pick the level of the test you want to take, because you start the test and the test will adapt the difficulty of the questions depending on the answers you give. So if you answer correctly, it will give you harder questions, and if you answer incorrectly, it will give you easier questions until it's found the perfect level for you. Now, why do you want to take the TOCFL? I assume if you're in this meeting, you're probably slightly interested, but there might be some reasons for taking it that you hadn't thought of. So first of all is the obvious one, probably if you want to go to university or work in Taiwan, that's going to be very useful for you. But if you're receiving one of the Taiwanese Ministry of Education scholarships for studying Chinese, not as a university course, just as a short course, or if you're interested in applying for those scholarships, then the TOCFL test will be useful for you as well. And maybe, this is my case at least, you just want to take it for yourself, test your level, or maybe put it in your CV as well. Never hurts to have an extra line on the CV, of course. If you are in the US, and I believe this is especially relevant for high school students, there is something called the Seal of Biliteracy, and in some states, the TOCFL is usable for that. So if you are interested and that does apply to you, you can use the QR code, or you can go onto the TOCFL website after this and have a look. I'm not from the US, so I don't really know any more details about it, I'm afraid. So now we're going to do a really quick overview of some of the types of questions you can expect to find on the reading and listening tests. I didn't take the writing and speaking tests because it's a separate test, so I'm not going to go into detail about all the different questions, but you can have a look at the website using the QR codes here as well if you want more information on those tests. And I do recommend that you look at the test instruction videos regardless. They'll go into a little bit more detail, especially about the different levels. And also do bear in mind that the guidance given here is based off of the computer and paper-based tests that have set questions for each level. The test questions you get on the CAT exam are the same types of questions, but you'll get a different sort of distribution of the questions, just depending on how you answer. So let's have a look at listening. I'll go quickly over the types of questions you find in Band A, which is your sort of beginner A1, A2 level. So the first type of question you're going to get, and do be aware that at Band A, they are played twice, but at Band B and C only once. The first question is a picture description. So you're going to listen to the question and 3 possible answers, and then you choose the answer that corresponds to the image. The second type of question is a single round dialogue, where you listen to a short dialogue of about 2 sentences and again pick the related picture. After that, you get a slightly longer dialogue and a question. Here, the questions are read aloud. They're not necessarily written on your screen, so you do need to listen for the question. And then you select the picture that best answers the question. And finally, you have the dialogue type, where you hear a line of dialogue and you have to choose the best response. And we'll actually give this one a go. I'll play the audio in a second. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it. And if you think you know the answer, you can type it in the chat. I'll give you a little bit of time and then we'll have a look at the answer together. So let's just play the audio first.
第47题。
好久没来这里了，变了好多哦。
以前这里是漂亮的风景，现在这里到处都是人。
人多不好吗？
我喜欢安静的环境。
这位小姐最后的意思是什么
A. 这里很吵。B. 这里人不多。C. 这里的环境很好。D. 这里的风景很美。
See some answers coming in. Lots of A's, a couple B's. Let's have a look, shall we? So here I have the English translation of all the answers, and the correct answer is A. Well done. Most of you got it right. So that's the sort of question that you can expect to get from the listening. And the Band B and C questions are similar. They're just a lot harder and a lot longer. So if you're looking to take one of the more advanced levels of test, then do have a look at the instruction videos for those levels so that you're not caught off guard. Now we'll move on to the reading section. And again, I'm going to have a look at the Band A questions together with you. So the first type of question is a sentence comprehension. You read a sentence on the screen and then you pick the corresponding question. We're going to give this one a go together. I will not play any audio because this is the reading question, but I'll give you about 20-30 seconds or so, read the sentence, have a look at the pictures, and if you think you know the answer, put it in the chat. Don't think you need 20 seconds. You're all very fast. Yeah, lots of C's. Okay, I don't think that one was too hard. Yes, the answer is C. The cup of milk is half full. It's been drunk halfway. The next type of question you'll get is a similar question. It's just the opposite. You look at the picture and pick the correct sentence that goes with it. These obviously might be a bit more diagram-like than picture-like. It just depends on the question you get. But either way, what you have to do is exactly the same. Then we have a couple of gap-filling type questions. The first type is a paragraph with lots of blanks and a list of clauses or phrases underneath, and you just have to pick which clause or phrase goes in which blank. And then the other type that you'll get is a picture with multiple sentences. You need to look at the picture, read the sentences, read the options, and pick the correct option to finish the sentences based on the information given to you in the picture. Finally, we have a typical reading comprehension question where you read the paragraph and the question, and then you pick the correct answer. You'll notice that quite a few of these listening and reading comprehension tasks have a text and then the question at the end. This means that especially for the listening, the question will come after you hear the text. So you do need to be remembering what you hear. With reading, obviously, you have a little bit more flexibility in the order that you read things in. So if you prefer to read the question first, you are more than welcome to, but it's just something to be aware of. Make sure you're answering the question that they ask and not the question you thought of in your head. Like I said, Band B and C are similar, but a little bit different, very much harder. And this QR code will take you to the instruction videos for those, and also to the Band A instruction videos if you want a little bit more in-depth examples and practice. So now we'll talk a little bit about what taking the test is actually like. If you're based in Taiwan, you're in luck. The test is extremely regular. You can take it 10 times a year. I don't recommend taking it 10 times a year, but you can take it in every month except February and October. It's pretty much only computer-based tests, and most reading and listening are the CAT tests, and you can take it in all major cities. This is the Taiwanese test registration website. When you sign up, you do need a recent passport or ID style photo, so make sure you prepare that in advance. In terms of the actual sort of test-taking environment in Taiwan, most of the tests are based in schools or universities. Do make sure you check the registration period for the test date that you want to take. If you leave it later within that registration period, you'll still be able to take the test probably, but you might have to go a little bit further afield. For example, I was living in Taipei when I took it, but I left it kind of late, and I had to go to Takming University of Science and Technology, which is still in Taipei, but it's sort of on the outskirts, and it took me about an hour to get there, which is not the most convenient thing in the world, so just be aware of that. Also, do be very careful and read the instructions very carefully when applying and before you go. For example, if you are studying in Taiwan, you may have a Chinese name. And when you apply for the TOCFL, it will ask you for your Chinese name. If your Chinese name is not on any official documents, which means if you do not have an ARC, a residency permit type document, do not put your Chinese name down. Just put your English name. because if they can't verify that it's you against your ID documents, you might be kicked out of the exam. I had to ask about this myself, so just something to be aware of. If you have an ALC with a Chinese name, use it. Otherwise, better safe than sorry. Another thing that caught a lot of people out on the day, slightly less catastrophic, but they are very strict about no metal, which would include things like no earrings. Glasses are okay, but if you got your ears pierced the day before the exam, you'll be choosing between your earrings and your exam. So just something to be aware of there as well. You will be expected to take off all of your jewelry. If you do have any problems or concerns, I highly recommend contacting the test administration team. There will be a contact email at the end of the presentation. They are super quick to respond and extremely helpful. They're very good at clarifying things, so you're in good hands there. The final tip I have in terms of actually getting to your test and being able to take it is to allow plenty of time, but not too much time. If you get there really early, they won't let you into the testing sort of area, so you'll just be hanging around for a long time. The alternative is to get there really early so you can get one of the few seats around outside the test area, but generally speaking, get there maybe 20-30 minutes in advance, but not 40-50 like I did. You can, of course, also take the TOCFL test overseas. The tests offered in each country are different and they are offered at different times of year. You can find out more information on the website, but these are the dates for the autumn-winter tests in the US and Canada, for example. If you're based in the UK or Ireland, they don't have any autumn-winter tests. If you're based in any other countries, you can have a look at the website here. This has all of the current test dates, so all of the 2025 test dates all over the world are here, and it also has previous year test dates. So if you're looking to potentially take it in 2026, you can maybe use this to guess when the tests will be available. If, though, the centre near you doesn't have any local sort of tests planned in the next couple of months, then you can apply to take the home edition. The slots are limited, but they are available, and you can find more information here on the website as well. This is the website for registering overseas. If you have previously registered on the Taiwanese website, your Taiwanese website registration details will not work on this website. So if you're trying to log in and it doesn't work, that's why. You'll just need to create a new account. Finally, I want to signpost you to some of the resources available on the TOCFL website for preparing for the exam. First, they have a lot of mock tests. If you go onto the website, you can use this QR code here. You can go to mock tests and then TOCFL mock test. You'll find question banks for all of the levels and also 5 sets of sort of official full mock tests. And if you go to the online test, you can do sort of simulations of both computer-based and the CAT test styles. So I do highly recommend looking at this. It'll get you used to how the test sort of program works, what the timings are like, and things like that. So you're not sort of stressed about it on the day. We also have some vocabulary lists for all the different levels. You can see along the bottom, they have got all the different levels vocab lists. And if you want more comprehensive study materials, especially for the Band B levels, you can check out the TOCFL official study guide. If you don't like studying from a computer, which is fair enough, you might want to have a look at some textbooks, and they do have a list of recommended textbooks, not just for preparing for TOCFL, but also for learning Chinese in general on the website. Finally, we do also have a TOCFL Facebook and Instagram page that you can follow or take a look at as well. So these are a couple of the most important links for you. But like I said, if you do still have any questions about the test or any other concerns that weren't covered, apart from our Q&A session at the end, you can also contact the TOCFL team using this email here.